Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, your stop every Monday to Thursday for those top stories making headlines in Israel. And just a reminder that the Israel Brief is brought to you by Lay of the Land, superior providers of content, well, at least in our opinion, and is told to you or broadcast by myself, Rolene Marks. But let's get on with the top stories because we have quite a jam-packed brief today. We begin in London at the London School of Economics, where Israel's ambassador to the United Kingdom, Tzipi Hotovely, had to be evacuated from the London School of Economics last night after she had delivered a 1.5-hour speech to an audience that was made up of anybody prepared to hear Israel's side of the story. Things potentially got very, very violent when, under heavy security, the ambassador had to be evacuated while pro-Palestinian activists were chanting against her and shouting slogans like "We'll smash her windows" and "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which is generally seen as a call for the extermination of the state of Israel. Earlier today, the ambassador tweeted out her thanks to the British government, many of them including the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and the Secretary of Education Nadim Zahawi, who tweeted out their outrage and condemned what happened at the LSE last night. But what has particular resonance for me are several things. Apart from the fact that this should not happen to anybody, even somebody from the Palestinian side who is making an argument or coming to speak to people in the understanding of respectable discourse. This should not happen to anybody. But we are also on the second day that we commemorate Kristallnacht, which began with words and chants of hate exactly like this, with calls of boycott exactly like this. And we cannot forget that this took place just months after, in that same city, there were convoys of pro-Palestinians going through the suburbs shouting "F the Jews" and "Rape their women." Now, I've spoken on the brief before about the element of misogyny that is creeping into anti-Semitic and anti-Israel discourse lately, and this is a prime example. And another example is going to come up later in this episode when I address the issue of Miss South Africa competing in the Miss Universe pageant. But this is unacceptable. If you have an alternative opinion to a speaker, address and discuss those issues respectfully. Anybody who speaks on behalf of Israel, myself included, are well aware of the diverse opinions out there and have encountered the opposing viewpoint on many occasions. But when somebody's personal safety is threatened like this, and when some of the chants that I cannot even repeat on this channel are chanted, we have a massive problem. And there are many maybe watching who say, well, maybe they're just anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitism. This is a clear example that there is no line between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. We now go to the United Nations, where the Biden administration representatives to the UNGA last night voted in abstention to a resolution that allows for the right of return for Palestinian refugees. This is a resolution that is routinely put forward by UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency. Now, in the previous administration, the Trump administration, the vote against this resolution was an automatic no. However, the current administration has gone back to the Obama doctrine of abstaining. Now, the United States weren't the only country to abstain from the vote. Canada did as well. But seeing the great change in voting record by the United States is one that certainly has raised the attention of Israel. And speaking of the United States, is the Biden administration trying to put together some kind of unity government for the Palestinians? In an exclusive to I24 News, a report has been stated that representatives of the current administration are trying to bring together members of Hamas from Gaza and the Palestinian Authority from the West Bank to try and have a unity government to end the internecine fighting between the two parties and bring some kind of calm to both areas. Now, the Palestinian Authority have said they are not prepared to even comment or think about this until the United States has made some kind of decision regarding a consulate in Jerusalem. Israel's leadership have been very, very firm on that point, saying that the United States are welcome to open up a consulate in Ramallah, but sovereignty in Jerusalem belongs to the state of Israel. And now we get to that story that I alluded to in the beginning with regards to Miss South Africa. Now, again, we see this climate of bullying against a young woman who has worked very hard and has earned her opportunity to represent her country in next month's Miss Universe pageant, which will be taking place in the southern Israeli resort town of Eilat. Miss South Africa, Lalewa Mswani, has been subjected to horrendous bullying by the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement egged on by Chief Mandla Mandela, the grandson of the pro-Israel Nelson Mandela. First of all, there is an element of misogyny, because is it really up to a man to tell a young accomplished woman what to do? But in a statement on behalf of Miss South Africa from the Miss South Africa organization yesterday, they reiterated that not only is Miss South Africa not a political organization, neither is the Miss Universe pageant, excuse the frog in my throat, but also that she has worked very, very hard and deserves the opportunity to represent her country next month. Now, just to reiterate, there won't be representatives from the Palestinian side, as well as many countries in this region. But we wish Miss South Africa every success. And as she so pointedly put in her statement, I was bullied as a child and will not allow myself to be bullied as an adult. Well, Lalela, we cannot wait to welcome you and your co-participants to Israel next month, where you'll be able to see our vibrant, diverse democracy for yourself and make decisions for yourself, and hopefully make lifelong friends, such as a former Miss Iraq did when she befriended the Miss Israel representative just several years ago. So those are your top stories making headlines. Don't forget, you can check out our original writing on our website at www.layoftheland.online. You can read all about how Israel intends to be a world leader when it comes to solutions to combat climate change. I know that it is quite a controversial topic for many of you, but read what Israel is up to. It's also up on our Facebook page. While you're there, please give us a like or a follow, share our content. We're on YouTube at The Israel Brief. If you're watching there right now, do us a favor and hit that red subscribe button. It really helps us to get more exposure. And we're on Twitter at layoftheland5. That's at layoftheland5. With a slightly coughing Rolene Marks today, this is The Israel Brief. But don't forget to check in this time tomorrow for those top stories from Israel.